Good morning. We're sorry that we missed you, but we are here today to do a quick presentation on open access publishing and how it can be beneficial to you. My name is Ashley Cole, and I am a university librarian. I work specifically in collection strategies, and I'm here with my colleague, Bailey Lake.
I'm Bailey Lake, and I am the Open Strategies Librarian here at EKU Libraries. And I work with EKU teaching faculty to publish their work open access or to help them write textbooks and open educational resources. So let's get started. This is the title of this presentation is, oops, Open Access, Your Academic Advantage. And whenever we talk about open access, it's important to understand how the scholarly publishing cycle works. So you should be familiar with this process. It starts with research, data collection, and analysis, where faculty do research. Then you write an article, faculty write their article. Then it is sent off for peer review. So many faculty have served probably on peer review committees where you look at other faculty's research and assess it for correctness. Then it goes to publication, where the journal that you submitted it to makes it available. Then we come to discovery and dissemination, where libraries find the work, pay for it, and give access to students. However, what we actually need to think about is who is providing the funding, who is doing the work that makes this all possible, and who profits from the work that is being done. So these are the issues. In this step, the researchers work and the universities pay. In this step, the researchers work and the university pays. In this step, the faculty works, and the university pays. This is the only step out of the cycle in which the publishers do the work and the publishers pay. In this last step, the libraries do the work of finding your publications, and then the university pays to subscribe for students. So this process might have made slightly more sense when publishers were providing physical materials that have more of a cost. But today there are hundreds of places online that will host journal articles for free. So realistically, the publishing industry has been taking advantage of universities for a long time.
And just to add a comment to this, to give you some more context, in 1978, there were about 1,200 journals published in the physical and natural sciences, but in 2020 alone, this increased to more than 20,000 journals. This is 600 to 700,000 that we spend on journal subscriptions alone in our university budget, and that makes up for 60% of our budget, and we only subscribe to a small percentage of what's available.
So this system has been successful simply because publishing in high impact journals leads to promotion and tenure, and faculty need to publish to advance their careers, and many may think that traditional public publishing is the only option. However, enter open access. This is a system of publishing that is available to all. It is available online at no cost to the reader. It can be used without restriction in the digital environment, and it can incorporate many different types of media. So, open access publishing has been developed over the years by people who do not condone the process that takes so much money from universities without providing any profit. And it requires university libraries to pay to access materials that were written by our own faculty. Also, publishing open access benefits you in all of these different ways. It can increase your impact. Open access research is viewed and cited more often than research behind a paywall. Studies show that open articles receive 19% more citations than those behind a paywall. It is also available to anyone, not just those with access to a subscription or through their institution. And it makes it more possible for scholars, policymakers, practitioners, clinicians, and the general public to be able to view, cite, and share your work. So your research can have a much more direct application toward current practices, methodologies, and policies. It also helps improve community engagement. So This is the piece where clinicians and practitioners may not have comprehensive access to a subscription journal, or they don't have the resources to pay for the copyright fees themselves. So, opening up research allows publications to become actualized in the form of policies, treatments, funding allocations, and decisions. And Ashley actually knows someone that has benefited from this.
Yeah. Yes. So I have a friend who is a nurse practitioner. She works in substance abuse, and every now and then I will get an email from her asking if we have a particular journal article that she could access. Her company does not have a library of their own, and so we can sometimes get that for her if we have access, but if we don't, then she's out of luck. So if she was looking for something and it was in an open access journal, she would have access without having to go specifically to a library that subscribes or ask for her company to buy a specific article. And in some cases, they don't have the funding for that. So open allows for practitioners to access materials they would need for their job. So it just betters the community and it betters jobs and betters health.
Yeah, absolutely. And also allows for this wider collaboration. So researchers can collaborate globally on any topic. And it also helps advance science just in general. So OA research leads to accelerated breakthroughs and new innovations. So increasingly, research is done by large and diverse teams that are spanning actually different institutions and different geographic regions. So copyright agreements can inhibit this open sharing. This OA publishing enables equal access to vital information. And this is all outside of the financial benefits, which are extreme. It benefits the universities financially, and it saves EKU money on all five of those steps in the scholarly publishing process. And this is super important as library budgets are remaining the same or decreasing, while material costs are continually rising. So we just don't want the library to pay for both the creation and then access to the same information.
Yeah, and then the final thing at the bottom is about the open access citation advantage. Basically, what this means is that OA journal articles receive more citations compared to subscription journal articles. This suggests wider accessibility leads to increased visibility and citation rates. So that's big for when you're tracking your impact.
But there are barriers to open access, and we acknowledge that.
So at this point in the presentation, we were going to have you do a survey. Please go ahead and if you can still complete that survey, but we have made some assumptions about what we think those barriers will be, and we'll go through each of them. But if you will take the survey, it will help us get a general idea about what faculty see as barriers as we're approaching open in the future.
Okay. So the first barrier we predicted was that it is just so difficult to navigate. So different levels of openness exist. They're largely dictated by publisher policies and the different ways in which published materials is accessible. The term open access does not always mean that the work is just in the public domain. In many cases, open access can mean that the work has a license by the copyright holder that actually grants permission for others to reproduce and redistribute their work. So the green version of open access means that a version of the manuscript is freely available in an institutional repository. EKU does have an institutional repository, and I'm going to talk about that a little later. Um, the gold version means that the final version of the manuscript is available, but it requires the author to pay an APC or author publishing charge. Diamond open access is the sort of true open access term. It means the final version is published with no fees to either the reader or the author. And then the hybrid model is some combination of these three.
So just a couple of notes to add to something, just to kind of clarify what these different ones are. I like to think of green as like self-archiving. So this might be a pre or a post print of an article in a repository. Um, Hybrid is the one that I think is a little trickier. This is where open has been picked up by publishers like Springer or Elsevier, who are attempting to reap the benefits of open for wider accessibility while continuing to make a profit. So it's still a subscription journal. The author pays to make the individual article open access, and then sometimes the library pays to subscribe to the journal. So effectively, the publisher is kind of getting paid twice. Diamond, like Bailey said, is the one that we really try to push authors to. This is true open, and it also includes the library as a publisher, where authors don't pay, but the library or the university is paying for a publishing platform that the library uses to host libraries' publisher journals.
Right. Okay. Another barrier is the cost, right? So with that gold, especially open access model, we have something called author pay charges or article publishing charges. They stand for different things. But this just means that the article will be made open as long as somebody pays for it. Um, if you find a journal that is asking you to pay an APC in order to make your article open, there are some options. So you can apply for a grant to cover the APC. You can actually ask the journal to waive the APC, and you should always be negotiating with publishers as they publish your work. You can also ask your dean for departmental funds. And then you can check with your library liaison to see if the library has one of these hybrid model agreements. So, for example, the library currently has an agreement with the American Chemical Society, whereas we subscribe to that journal and our authors are able to publish without paying an APC. But just to make this absolutely clear, we cannot pay APCs. The library budget just cannot support it, except in these pre-arranged agreements, like with the American Chemical Society.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's what I do in my work as the collection strategist. We will continue to partner with publishers where we can to cover the cost of open access publishing as part of subscriptions and licensing deals. And then as we develop new partnerships, we'll make announcements via EKU Today or on our blog, also by liaison messages. So just stay tuned for those.
Okay, all this to say, there are free open access journals that you can publish in. So we want to focus again, green open access means that there's a version of the manuscript that you can make institution available in your institutional repository, or you can add it to a discipline-specific repository. And then Diamond is this sort of holy grail of open access where nobody pays. Additionally, Diamond open access journals are often hosted by universities, as Ashley was mentioning, so the library can function as the publisher. And this completely cuts out the middleman and allows you to publish open for free. So again, ask your librarian. You can feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm the Open Strategies librarian, or you can definitely contact Rachel. Rachel is a champion of open access. So we can all work together to help you find somewhere to publish that is for free and true open access.
Okay, so the next barrier that we have anticipated is quality and the impact of open. So I'm going to break down some preconceived ideas about open, and kind of help you think through why we think that open may not be as high quality. So in 2013, John Bohannon conducted a study titled Who's Afraid of Peer Review to test peer review practices of fee charging open access journals. Over an 8-month period, he submitted intentionally flawed fake scientific papers to 304 journals. These papers contained obvious and critical scientific flaws that should have been rejected outright. However, the results were concerning. 60% of journals accepted the papers, and this raised significant doubts about the reliability of some open access peer review practices. Okay, but here's the catch. The study targeted fee charging publishers, many of which fall into the category of predatory journals. So these publishers exploit the pay to publish model, prioritizing profit over quality. This is not representative of open access at all, but it is undeniably casting a shadow on the field. So let's unpack this context a bit further. The Bohannon study occurred during a time of rapid growth in open access publishing. So between 2010 and 2014, we also saw a sharp increase in predatory practices. This was driven by the rise of the pay to publish model. The overlap created what many describe as a perfect storm. Unfortunately, the timing unfairly associated open access with low quality standards, so predatory publishers exploited the model and it gave open access a bad reputation. However, it's important to distinguish reality from perception. The issues highlighted by the Bohannon study were not about open access itself, but about the exploitative publishers abusing the system. Meanwhile, many reputable open access journals continue to maintain rigorous peer review processes and uphold high standards. So, while this period was challenging for open access, it also underscores the importance of identifying and supporting legitimate open access publishing practices. Okay, switch for me, Bailey. So, while the Bohannon study highlighted challenges in open access publishing, studies of reputable open access journals show a very different picture. So, research such as Bjork and Solomon in 2012 and Pastorino in 2016 demonstrate that open access journals index in databases like Web of Science and Scopus were already approaching the quality and impact of subscription based journals. This includes journals in biomedicine and oncology, where rigorous peer review practices ensure high standards. Examples include the Journal of Clinical Medicine, Health Science Reports, American Journal of Medical Sciences, and publications from PLOS One. Peer review remains the cornerstone of quality assurance, but the issue of predatory publishers have complicated has complicated perceptions. So at the same time, dissatisfaction with traditional journal measures like journal impact factors has grown. Increasingly, researchers and institutions are looking beyond these alternative metrics, looking beyond traditional metrics to alternative metrics, also known as alt metrics, which capture broader research influence.
Okay, so with these metrics, there is the concern that open will not have as big an impact as a traditionally published article. However, these are the links that the library has put together to help you calculate the impact factor of both articles and journals. And we also have a fully comprehensive research guide that lays out the importance of these measures, their limitations, and we also have subscribed to Web of Science, which we are super excited about. And it has excellent built-in metric tracking capabilities that we are encouraging all faculty to take advantage of. So I'm going to show you real quick how to get to this. So if you just go to our library website, go to our online resources and check out Web of Science right here. You can search here publication titles, and this will give you a lot of excellent information on different journals. So Plus One is a excellent open journal. And if you just click this arrow right here, you can do View Journal Impact, and it will tell you it is in the first quartile, which is the highest ranked. And these are the journal citation indicators. So this is an excellent tool that you can check to make sure that your open publication is going to have a high impact. Okay, I think that's all it's going to show. Oh, you're muted, Ashley.
Okay, so one significant barrier to faculty adopting open access publishing is the lack of clear policies and guidance in promotion and tenure documentation. So, in my role as a member of the Provost Faculty Internship Cohort, I've been examining how open publishing interacts with promotion and tenure. Across departments, open access isn't explicitly mentioned in the promotion and tenure guidelines, and I'm not necessarily advocating that it should be. Instead, we're advocating for a broader understanding of scholarly impact. This includes incorporating alt metrics that capture real world influence of research, moving beyond traditional prestige markers like journal rankings. I also believe it's important to include applied and practical forms of scholarship, like podcasts, for example, that reflect engagement and impact. We know that tenured faculty are more likely to publish in open access journals because they recognize its broader influence. But the question remains, how do we evaluate those broader definitions of scholarship? And that's where my internship comes in. So, Bailey and I are developing a series of strategically scaffolded presentations for faculty at different career stages. We're integrating sessions into the new faculty seminar series for new faculty. And again, in the scholars community, which is a pilot program designed for mid career faculty. And for those involved in promotion and tenure, we're working with Faculty Senate and the Chairs Council to guide committees in evaluating open scholarship effectively. By addressing these barriers and creating practical guidance, we can ensure that open access contributions are valued and fairly assessed. These presentations will hopefully be rolling out in the next year, so be on the lookout for them and feel free to reach out if you'd like more details or resources.
Okay. Our next slide is just titled Proceed with Caution. Predatory journal publishing is an opportunistic publishing technique that exploits the academic need to publish, but offers little reward to those who use their services. So this you should be careful with especially when publishing open access, but really all the time. Predatory publishers can make false claims about the peer review process. They may or may not have a peer review process. Um, all the peer reviewers may be outside the field you're publishing in. And they are always going to publish most articles because more articles mean more money, right? More APCs. So they do not care about the quality of the work they publish. And there will always be fees if you are working with a predatory journal. So this is again in that gold open access model. They also will make false claims about the article preservation. So predatory publishers may or may not have a long-term plan for your publication. And it's so important when it's time for you to gather evidence for your promotion. You might search for this article that you published only to find that it no longer exists. Similarly, they will make all kinds of claims about how widespread your research will be without actually promoting your work at all. So, a good journal will index your work in several places, like Scopus, like Web of Science, and all of this increases discoverability. But with predatory publishers, you'll be lucky to find your work in Google Scholar. So, again, there are always going to be fees associated with predatory publishing. And it's important to note that open access does not make a publisher predatory, but it's their bad behavior. So there are tons of reputable open access journals that will give your work the respect that it deserves. So before you decide to publish in any journal, make sure that the journal is indexed in an established and reputable database. You can check the journal's website, you can check their editorial board, you can email previous article authors. You make sure that the publishing fees and that the copyright is clearly indicated. And then these are two lists of very helpful lists of journals. This is the Open Access Scholarly Publishers Association, which is a forum for open access publishers that membership is vetted and it indicates publisher quality. And then the Committee on Publication Ethics, COPE, is a forum for editors and publishers of peer-reviewed journals to discuss all aspects of publication ethics. So if you are looking to publish open access, we have a great research guide um, to help you determine which are true open access and which ones are just trying to get your money. This LibGuide is a comprehensive look at open access publishing, and it sort of restates everything that we've said today with just a little more context. This is a great place to go if you're just getting started or if you get stuck and need some guidance. And then this next link is the Directory of Open Access Journals, and this is one of my favorite open access tools. So I'm going to show you really quick. You can go to this website and search all the different subjects. You may have to experiment with what you search, but I'm just going to search health sciences. And along the side here, I'm going to limit to without fees. And I am going to publish in English. And then you can also limit to um, journals published within the US, but I'll just tell you that the rest of the world is a lot further ahead of us in open access publishing. But over here, it clearly tells you the title of the journal. It tells you that there's no APC, there's no other charter charges. It tells you what Creative Commons license you will be published under on this journal. And you can also click this. These are all linked, and it will show you exactly what these mean. So this is a great resource. The last link is similar. It is actually a part of the directory of open access journals, but it allows you to actually put your abstract into the search box and it will match you more specifically with a journal that is open that you might want to publish in. So it's also super cool. Okay. All right. So let's talk about repositories. You can share your research in an open access repository. So shareyourpaper.org, it automatically makes a journal article open access according to the journal policies. You can just paste in your DOI to this website and follow the steps. And then also, when you submit your research, you can ask to publish either a preprint or the final version of your work in EKU's repository. So it's called Encompass. Or you can do a discipline-specific repository. But Encompass is awesome. It has really cool tracking that we can look at data to see like where your work is being used, who has downloaded it, how many times it has been downloaded, and you can include all this evidence from Encompass in your promotion materials. It also has something called teaching impact reports. So if you're listed as a mentor on scholarship that is submitted by your students, Encompass can take a look at the student theses and poster presentations and can actually create a report that gives you credit for all of the mentoring that you do. You can also negotiate with publishers to like after your work has been published for a year or 18 months, sometimes they'll let you put a version into the open access repository. That's a great way to get it in there in an institutional repository. But also,
And
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, research has found that with that 1 year embargo, if you have to wait 1 year before you put something in an open access repository, it really does not make a difference in impact. Just adding something to an open access repository, putting that postprint or preprint in there will still increase your engagement even 1 year after it's been published. So please consider trying to get that negotiated into your copyright agreement.
Definitely. Just be careful to comply with whatever copyright the journal has when you upload your published work. Here's another resource called Know Your Copyrights. And then Sherpa Romeo is an online database of academic journals' self-archiving policies. So most journals already have a self-archiving policy. Just make sure you communicate that as you negotiate. So, like we said, ask for preprints. Um, and then here is where you can submit to EKU Encompass. It's a super simple form that you can fill out, and we can actually host a PDF version of of your article file. Or if you don't own the copyright of your work, You can still index your article in Encompass, which increases the discoverability and boosts engagement, increases citations, all that good stuff. Um, and as Ashley said, research shows that releasing a preprint is associated with more attention and more citations for the peer-reviewed article. So preprints are a really powerful tool, especially because they can be published a lot more quickly than the formal journal publication process. We all know it can take many months for an article to be reviewed and published. But if you post a freely accessible version of the article online, you can get feedback, comments, reviews by readers that could lead to changes in the final published draft. And it can also be used by researchers to provide evidence of productivity when applying for jobs. So it just generally helps establish the priority of discovery and ideas. It is especially beneficial to early career researchers. It helps them find research collaborators and also helps improve your professional network, which can lead to more opportunities for the researchers. So please submit your work to Encompass. It's really beneficial.
Okay, our contact information is on the screen. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us, or you can reach out to Rachel as well, and she can send those to us. Thank you for watching and enjoy your day.